All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Trading Bitcoin with your host, Vays. Coming to you live on this Tuesday morning. As you can see, nice fresh haircut. And let's get the show going. Let's go to screen share. A few announcements for you. Okay, monthly chart. I really want to see us close above that moving average, though it doesn't really matter if it closes just below it or just above it. What do you think about the Bitcoin ETF, guys? I'm already looking at your comments. I've been talking about the Bitcoin ETF since 2017. I said it wasn't going to happen then. I don't think it's going to happen now. It may happen, I don't know, in a year or two. I kind of hope that GBTC is actually the first ETF because then the GBTC discount is going to get, wiped away. And those holding GBTC should get that difference in one way or another. It's also possible that GBTC is going to get bought up in preparation for it becoming an ETF. All right, my charts are restarting because my computer restarted. This is an ugly looking candle. Everything is starting to look nasty with a new low close. A new low close on a weekly level is very bad. Weekly swing low, lower than last week's low, is also very bad. 3-month chart. Oh yeah, someone asked me for that last time and I forgot. Is El Salvador in trouble? Maybe. Maybe. Everyone else seems to be in trouble. So I'm assuming El Salvador is not that different. As you can see, the MACD is very ugly. The RSI on a weekly chart is lower than it might have ever been. That might just be an all-time low on the RSI. That's not good. I mean, there's not much else for it to go but up, but technically it's still at 25 or something, so it's not that terrible. It could go lower, could get worse. There's not going to be much good news today. It's actually all going to be bad. The CMF might be at a historic low. Yep, that's a historic low. I'm going to do my best to stay positive and find some good news. I really am going to try, but I'm probably going to fail. Hey, Tone, do you think the next bull run will be different now that people are more afraid to use lending platforms, less liquidity? Now people have memories like a fish. Now, once prices start going up, they're going to be degenerate leverage gamblers again. It's you don't really you don't learn this lesson the first time. People that learn their lesson will not have any money to buy in. Most people will still, go along with leverage. Very few people, like I know Mechanic's not going to do it if you've watched his video. No, new buyers will come in. They don't know any better. No, degenerate gambling will not change. Allocation chart. You guys know where I stand on this. Unless this gets turned around in the next 24 hours, we're going 100% cash here. 100% cash within the next 24 hours. It needs to turn around. If it starts to fall, like I'm still holding out that 20,000 holds. If 20,000 is not holding in the next 24 hours, I'm going to retroactively stick an all cash sticker right here at around just above 20,000. So if we do this video tomorrow and the price is sitting at like $9,000, I'm going to retroactively put 100% cash label right there at like 20,100 or 20,000 or like somewhere in that vicinity. Hey, Fibbo Swanee, thanks for joining me on the live stream. Well, you're not actually on a live stream, but you're watching. This is a disastrous looking candle on our Consensio chart. Like I said, there is not much good news. I mean, I was busy today, so the stream is coming a little bit late. But while I was busy, I was like, come on, turn around. I don't want to be this depressive on a live stream, but it just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and here we are. Okay, before we go to the daily charts, quick announcements. I, unfortunately, in light of a lot of stuff that's happening, I was planning to go to France and speak at Surf in Bitcoin. This is taking place at the end of August. And it was a tough decision, but I was planning to go here because I've been to BitBlock Boom the last 3 years. And I wanted to, get out to Europe and then probably hit up Honey Badger in Latvia the weekend after that in early September. But I may just stay in the United States and Latin America. So that means I will not be making it to Surf in Bitcoin. I will try my best to do it next year. It's a Bitcoin only conference. It's pretty popular. It's going to have over 1,000 people. It should. It is a bear market though. But it's always been in French only, but this time it's in English. Those of you that are not in Europe, I will be going to BitBlock Boom because this becomes a much easier travel destination. Gary Leland was nice enough to get me a ticket to this because he's about to sell out. He's going to have some amazing speakers, including Jack Mollers and Cynthia Loomis, Jimmy Song, of course. Excellent event. So come and check out BitBlock Boom in Austin, Texas this year instead of Dallas, Texas. Okay. One more travel announcement. If you happen to be in the tri-state area in New York, actually, it's not even the tri-state area, New York or Philly. If you are in New York or Philly actually in about 10 days, on July 10th, if you are free on Sunday, July 10th, I will tweet this out later. Is it? Let me check. Sunday, July 10th in Trenton, New Jersey. So I used to be on a softball team. I tried out for the baseball team in college, but I didn't make the cut. So my friends and I used to have a softball team like a long time ago. I think I stopped playing like a decade ago. When I became a Bitcoiner, I stopped playing sports. I was playing on a softball team for like a decade. I was playing volleyball for like 15 to 20 years since early high school. I'm playing softball since early high school too, softball, baseball. And none of us have played in at least 7 years. And we all got together and we rented a minor league baseball stadium to have like a reunion softball game. So if anyone is in town and wants to come and hang out at the minor league stadium or even play in the softball game, I will make you chip in probably 100 to 200 bucks. That's how much everyone's paying because this thing is not cheap. But let me know. I'm going to tweet this out later because I don't want to like announce which minor league stadium. I'm hoping there's a few so people don't like randomly show up without us knowing who's showing up. So we can use a couple of players. We're also old. So come and hang out if you play softball. Well, not here. Ignore that thing, which is a cool place, by the way. Grounds for Sculpture. It's a really cool place. But Yeah, it's gonna be somewhere in Trenton, somewhere in here. There, well, we're gonna be playing softball. So if anyone's interested, hit me up. Yeah, if I'm in Big Block Boom, I'll play chess. I will be happily losing the first round of the chess tournament. There are all these side events. Anyway, let's get back to the charts, guys. Check out all the side events. I will be at Big Block Boom. Oh, forgot about my own event, Financial Summit. Come join us at the Financial Summit in the Dominican Republic. This is still going on. The entire castle has been rented. Okay, spending way too much time on announcements. Let's move on with the charts. Let me see in the live chat if anyone wants to come and play softball in Trenton. Also, if we don't have enough players for a real game, we may cancel it last minute. So you have to be, so don't fly across the country for this. But I'll send out a tweet and then let me know and I'll DM you if you are in the area. And then like 3 days before, we'll know for sure if there was a game or not. Yeah, 3-month chart. Daily chart, disastrous. See, this is why I took a break from the charts. Absolutely disastrous. That is a red star candle kicking off a brand new MRI count to the upside. MRI count to the downside. The MRI count to the upside almost got us to an MRI sell. We were like 1 or 2 candles off. If this candle would have been a bullish candle, we probably would have seen the MRI down arrow, but we couldn't even get there. I mean, this arrow is pretty much done. Guys, if we don't reverse in the next 24 hours, this is complete. This is really, really bad. This is your line in the sand, and we're already close enough to it to consider this area being lost. We've already reached the outcome of this arrow. So this arrow was accurate. We broke the downtrend. We broke the downside of a consolidated channel, horizontal, and now we're about to break this line, and that ain't gonna hold it. This is nothing compared to what can happen next. So this is disastrous. I don't know any other way of putting it. I don't even know where to put this thing. Probably down in the 15 area, because we got to go sufficiently lower than these lows, both on the close and on the swing. This is how critical the 20,000 support is right now. It's super bad. Look, we all know Bitcoin is eventually going to turn around, but as long as shitcoins fall faster than Bitcoin, there is some silver lining here. Not much, but some. All right, let's go up the level here. Let's go to the 3-month chart someone asked for. Oh, you know what I'm going to do for a 3-month chart? Oh, I tweeted out about BCH. BCH is dead. Absolutely dead. So before I go, speaking of 3-month charts, NDX, check this out. Oh, where'd that come from? Oh, this is probably from a, okay, let's go to a 2-month chart, not 3-month chart. I was looking at this earlier. There was a nice Bollinger Band. Oh yeah, these were like comparisons I've done to how Bitcoin would eventually perform. I wonder how Bitcoin did compared to this. Oh, when I drew this, it was July 20. Wow, I can't believe how old this is when I drew it. So this was a comparison to Bitcoin. So this is how I compared Bitcoin to the NASDAQ. And this was the 2017 bubble, like the 2000 bubble with all those scammy shitcoins, ICOs. And then we had these moves. And this was the breakout above prior swing high, like what happened in Bitcoin in 2020. And both of these things top. Now the NASDAQ, look at the percentage, right? This went up a lot. This went up 1,500%. This went up only 250%, a lot less. So the reason, I'm going to turn this off for a second. The reason why I pulled up this 2-month chart for a different reason. It was a Bollinger Band thing. And you're going to see a tweet about that from the Financial Summit handle very soon. Everyone's about to go crazy because like I put this, we were putting this tweet together for the Financial Summit handle, and everyone is like, Tone, are you going to switch to dark backgrounds? I don't know, maybe. I really don't like dark backgrounds. I really prefer my white backgrounds. But when I pulled it up for the purposes of Bollinger Bands, I noticed the MRI on a 2-month. I've never looked at a 2-month time frame before, but look at the MRI top on NASDAQ 100 with the MRI. And you can also see the MRI top in the 2008 financial crisis on the NASDAQ. You can also see a nice pullback here with the Trump election. Wait, I'm sorry, Trump election was 26. There was an election in 2020. Right. So the election was in 2016, not 2015. So that was before the election. Getting my election years confused. And you can see the MRI top, the 4th consecutive MRI top that took place right in the 2000 bubble. So that was kind of cool. All right, now let's take a look at Bitcoin. 2-month chart. This is not a log scale, but that doesn't matter. So on a 2-month chart, look at the MRI top on Bitcoin as well. Wow, didn't expect that. Let's put it on log scale. Let's go to the 3-month chart. Quarterly. 3-month charts give us a red star candle. We have never had a red star candle. You know what word I'm going to say, Mel? You know what word I'm going to use here? This is horrible, absolutely horrible. Because remember, on the annual side of things, we're on an MRI top for the year. So if there was ever a year for Bitcoin to really, I think the word shit the bed has a very different meaning now since the Johnny Depp trial. Let's hope this doesn't last into another year. Let's hope this is not a 1 to 4 year correction. Can crypto exchanges use the Bitcoins they own for us to dump the price? Shouldn't we all take it back from exchanges and put it into our wallets? If everyone takes Bitcoin back from the exchanges, how would you have price discovery? Some people need to trade. Now, let's go to the S&P for a second. I still hope that the S&P rebounds here. The S&P is not doing too bad. The S&P did bounce off the channel. There is still some hope. There are ways for the US government to bring confidence back to the US economy and the US stock market. But no one is going to like it because it involves this red zombie apocalypse that is happening in Ukraine. And I don't know if I want to get into this mess, but let's just say there is a lot more red now than the last time I streamed this video. I did not even know they lost this whole area. This is about to close in, and all these soldiers are just fucked. So, and then this red is going to spread from here this way, because I think half the soldiers are going to go right here, and these people are this military that's bombing Donetsk is in serious trouble once this ends. Just my opinion. And the longer the Western government continues to send these people on the white side of the country to their death in the red side of the country, the worse it will be for the markets. All right, let's open up some more charts. Hourly chart. So the hourly chart, no comment. No comment. Looks bad. GBTC. Did I close GBTC? I think I closed GBTC. Control Shift T. Let's bring it back. Well, GBTC might have custody with Coinbase. I don't know if that's how much extra risk that is. If I was GBTC, I would have my own custody. I think it's weird that Barry Silbert would custody his Bitcoin with Brian Armstrong. I mean, they should be their own custodian. I don't understand why that's happening. Oil is going back up, and that is also disastrous for the Western economies. Geez, I got no good news for you guys on this Tuesday. It's like horror show Tuesday here. If oil starts to break the swing high, it's all like hell is gonna break loose in the US government, like, because they're going to start to see massive inflation go through the roof, because everything is just going to go up in price. Like, you've never had any relief in this oil price. like at least over here, right? You get a pullback. You know, it pulls back. What did it pull back? You know, pull back 20%. And then again, it pulls back like 20, 30%, right? So you get these pockets of relief where companies can like buy some futures contracts and hedge their oil price going forward. And then over here, we had a spike. We didn't stay there too long. So we're just going to use the bodies of candles. You know, only 15%. And now, only 10%. That is no relief at all. So you're going to have perpetually high gas prices at the pump. You're not even going to have that little slowdown. You probably haven't even seen the gas prices caused by these oil prices, because companies could have purchased futures contracts, you know, like 3, 4, 5 months out. But eventually, they can't sell you the cheaper oil as they got to buy more and more futures contracts. So you're in trouble. And once we break this line, this 50% long becomes 100% long. And the place to be is in oil. And it can go to $200 by end of year. Oh boy, especially in the winter. Shoot, if Russia decides to cut the supplies to West Europe, which, as I've said before, would be a dumb strategy. I've mentioned it before. Russia cutting off West Europe. Oh. Where's my map? Wasn't that the map? Where'd the map go? Did I close that tab? Yeah. I've said it before. Russia cutting off gas supplies to Europe would be bad. It would spike energy through the roof. And then US would have to strategically send more oil to Europe, lowering the US reserves and rising the price of oil in the US, the price of gas, the price of everything in the US, trying to support Europe. And then everyone in Europe would get so pissed at Russia for turning off their gas and oil that they will take up arms and hopefully wait till summer to try and invade. But if they're dumb enough to do it in the winter, then that won't be smart. But in any case, I think it's a mistake for these guys to turn off the gas to these guys, which is happening right now. But Russia is saying it's not their fault. It's the West's fault for the turn off of the gas, because their own sanctions turned it off, and their own sanctions are preventing maintenance from the gas to flow. Now, of course, they can be lying. I have no idea. But either way, price of energy is going to rise everywhere across the world. And Europe is now buying refined gas from refined gasoline or whatever they're buying from India. And India is just buying from Russia, refining it, adding 10-20% to the price, and then selling it to Europe. So this is not efficient, and it only costs the local people more money. So geopolitics is very important for your portfolio. And keep in mind, the entire rise in the price of oil started because of dumb government lockdowns, and more importantly, the push by the green movement and the climate change people to make the price of oil unreasonably high, so you stop driving your gasoline car. I don't know how anyone can live in Germany right now. Like I don't know. I have no interest in living anywhere in West Europe except maybe Portugal, but I've never been to Portugal. So maybe it's why there's still hope. I've been to pretty much all the other countries in Europe, and I have no desire to live there. I also haven't been to like Hungary, so maybe that's good. Like the only countries I have hope for is the ones I haven't been to yet. Everywhere I've been to in Europe, I have no desire to live there. Not Germany, not Poland, not France, not Italy, Switzerland, Spain, maybe. Spain is the closest. Not Greece. Prague is close. Prague's becoming Kiev, basically. There's 3 times more Ukraine flags in Prague than Czech flags. I was there recently. I wouldn't want to live in Austria, Netherlands. No, definitely not Brussels. So not much left. Definitely not in these 2. Well, I definitely wouldn't live here. Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. These countries may not even exist in 3 years from now. The problem with Latin America is they keep electing Marxist leaders, and we're dropping, and there it goes, and there it goes. I'm not even gonna wait. I'm just putting it in all cash. We're done. We're done. It's done. It's over. So we're going to 0. It's over. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to 0. Come to Mexico. I will. I am going to come to Mexico. Now that I'm not going to Europe. Well, I'm also not going to Europe. There is a conference in Riga, Latvia in September. I have a lot of friends that are going. I personally, I mean, I like the conference. It's great. I mean, you don't want to be there if Russia decides to invade. Maybe I have a very pessimistic view of the situation, but I'm also the guy that said, "What the fuck is Ukraine doing? Russia is going to take over the whole country," and everyone called me an idiot because Russia apparently has a very weak military. And so far, I don't know where I've been wrong on the Russia-Ukraine situation. You may not like my view on the situation, but I wasn't wrong about it. And if you're living in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, the slower Russia takes over Ukraine, the more time you have. Because the sooner they reach their objectives and Ukraine has not surrendered with a peace deal and they've reached their objectives, they're moving on to here, because the peace deal between Ukraine and Russia is what keeps the sanctions going. So Russia needs a peace deal with Ukraine in order to drop the sanctions that these idiots did. Without a peace deal, sanctions stay. So after they've reached their objectives, which are not pretty for the Ukrainian people, these guys are next unless they do something to save their own people, like exit NATO. You see, NATO is supposed to help protect the citizens of your country. Ukraine is in NATO. Ukraine is a de facto NATO. I know you guys say Ukraine's not in NATO. They're a de facto NATO. There's really no difference between Ukraine's deal with NATO and Lithuania's deal with NATO. If you think America is going to send in ground troops to protect Lithuania, you're crazy. Actually, America's lucky that Ukraine is not in NATO on paper, because if Ukraine was in NATO on paper, NATO would be destroyed right now, because America would not have sent troops to Ukraine anyway. And then all these countries would have seen that being in NATO on paper is equivalent to being Ukraine a de facto NATO. Ukraine had 10 times more NATO-trained military than all these countries combined. So just because Ukraine wasn't NATO on paper with Article 5, that doesn't change the fact that this was a NATO military force in Ukraine border. Yeah, but just because NATO could send NATO troops to Ukraine doesn't mean that they will. It doesn't mean that they will. Just think about it, right? Look how big Ukraine is. Look how important Ukraine is. Just look at Twitter and how many people have a Ukrainian flag, right? So Ukraine is socially important. Ukraine is 10 times more socially important to the West than either of these three countries. None of you know what these flags look like, okay? You all know what a Ukrainian flag looks like, okay? So NATO had, NATO had the biggest military right here in Ukraine. It was NATO trained 200,000 Ukrainian troops. Most of them NATO trained. The commanders certainly were NATO trained. It was a NATO army in Ukraine without the Article 5 of sending in other NATO troops. So if there are American NATO troops here, or here, my projection is that when this is over and Russia goes in, the NATO troops are actually not going east. The NATO troops are going west to the United States. I don't think anyone is coming to help these guys. So a peace deal is good for everyone. A peace deal would save Ukraine a lot of land, save Ukraine a lot of lives. Russia will demand the sanctions are dropped. Otherwise, there's no peace deal. The US will probably not drop the sanctions, which is why there is unlikely to be a peace deal, because now Ukraine is dependent on the United States dropping the sanctions against Russia for Russia to stop killing Ukrainians. There's probably not going to be a peace deal. As much as I want there to be a peace deal, it is very, very unlikely. So it's bad. It's bad. Like, Russia's military objectives are almost met. So at this point, all Russia's going to really want is, in my opinion, again, I don't think they even care if Zelensky is president or not. I think it's irrelevant. Because there's no way there's going to be a peace deal before all of this goes red. And then, if Russia creates a bigger buffer around Donbass and makes this area red. And then they also make a land bridge to Transnistria and make all of this red, including Odessa, then their military objective would pretty much be met. They would have protected the Donbass. They would have given Crimea a big buffer zone. They would have given Donbass a buffer zone. They would cut off Ukraine from having any US military in the Black Sea. Turkey ain't gonna let US military in the Black Sea. So the Black Sea becomes fully Russian occupied. I don't think they ever really wanted Kiev, my opinion. I don't think they really want Kharkiv. I don't think it's necessary, in my opinion. So I think that once, let me annotate in red. Once this something like this, like I don't know where the actual borders are, but once all of this, I mean, if there is no peace deal, I think this is where Russia will stop. Maybe if Ukraine's lucky. If Ukraine's lucky and there is no peace deal, I think this is where they'll stop. So all of this becomes Russia or autonomous, but it'll be hard to be autonomous. So maybe they'll let Donbass be its own country and then have all of this be Russia, maybe. But they'll probably just make Donbass Russia. I have no idea. Like I have no idea what they're thinking. I really don't know. But I think this is where they'll stop. But I could be wrong. I could totally be wrong. They could also stop like here. And like just take this. It depends how much of a dick they want to be to Ukraine at this point. All right, let me clear. But once they take that land, then like their other demands, like demilitarize Ukraine, that's not all that necessary anymore because they would have already done that by taking the land. They've demilitarized Western Europe because they sent Ukraine all their weapons. And so the whole denazification angle that Putin played, that objective, he'd say that's achieved. They gave water to Crimea because they own this river now. So that objective was achieved. If Ukraine says something about NATO again, they'll start another military operation. So the NATO objective is probably achieved. So they would have achieved all their military objectives. So then the only thing left for Russia to stop shooting would be to force the United States to drop the sanctions. And guess what? That ain't gonna happen. That ain't gonna happen. There's no way US is dropping the sanctions. Well, I couldn't have been wrong about GBTC ETF because you said a statement in the past and in the future. You were wrong about GBTC ETF. GBTC ETF will be bearish. So how could I have been wrong on something that has not yet happened? You can't speak in past tense and future tense at the same time. I don't think Barry Silbert is crazy to sell Bitcoin out of GBTC Trust on spot. He would try to look for OTC deals off book. All right, looking at your live chat. How can Putin speak about his Ukraine country? 99% of the people hate him. I don't believe 99% of the people in Ukraine hate him. For starters, this entire area here is part of Ukraine, according to the West, and everyone in here hates Ukraine, not Putin. So again, that's why this area wanted to disassociate from Ukraine. So this area here currently in red is native Russians, mostly. Not all, mostly. Everyone on this side pretty much hates him, but not this side. Like the difference between this side of Ukraine and this side of Ukraine, like I don't think there aren't many countries in the world with that much disparity. Like the difference between Ukrainians over here and here is like, I almost want to say like Scotland versus England at this point, but 1,000 years ago. Look, it's impossible to speak for Ukrainians. It's impossible because some Ukrainians are, I may get my channel banned for this, but some Ukrainians over here are very happy this is happening. Most are not. I think it's almost too late for Odessa. I think that even if Ukraine goes to the negotiating table tomorrow to broker peace, Russia's gonna still demand this area. Russia is, I think they will demand a land bridge to Transnistria and include Odessa. They will, well, I'm assuming they will allow Ukrainians in Odessa that don't want to be under Russia to move to other parts of Ukraine or Europe. They're welcome pretty much everywhere. But I would be surprised if Russia does not take Odessa. And most of this happened because everyone underestimated the Russian military. I didn't. This channel didn't. But I was at conferences. Man, I was at this economic conference, and this young kid must have been like 26, 27. He was doing economics. But then they asked him the question on Russia, Ukraine. This was like 2 months ago, 3 months ago. It's like a few weeks into the war. And he's like, well, I'm a Russian expert. I studied this for 10 years at this university and this lecture. And he sat there on stage making fun of the Russian military and how it's a joke because he studied it in his studies. And I sat there in the audience and I laughed at how clueless this guy was. And he was supposed to be an expert on this stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how many experts there are in their own little bubble. Is there any scenario Russia loses this war? No, there isn't. There isn't. There is no scenario. There is one scenario, but you are not going to live long enough to see it. I don't even know what country you're in. The only way Russia loses is if 90% of the world dies because there was a nuclear fallout. It is impossible for them to lose because they have the biggest nuclear arsenal in the world, and they will use it before they lose. There's huge Bitcoin mines everywhere. Yeah, I have no idea how Europe is going to afford to build an army and replace the weapons they sent to Ukraine. I don't know how Europe's going to afford that. Europe is in serious trouble. We can look at the euro currency. Actually, I'm curious how the currencies are doing today. How are the shit coins doing today? Well, Ethereum is actually doing fairly well. Yeah, so Ethereum is still doing fairly well. That's a weird line. Why would I draw it like that? It should be like here. Yeah, shitcoins are somehow rebounding from the dead. I don't know why or how. So it probably means there's a lot more downside to go. Brazilian real. Yeah, it sucks. The Brazilian real is dropping. Yeah, let's look at FX. Way more interesting than. First, let's look at the dollar. Start there. So the dollar is headed for new highs. Only because the Russian ruble is not factored into that calculation. The euro is going to be heading for new lows. The euro has not broken parity, well, since inception. So the euro is going to go to parity to the dollar. Especially when people in Europe realize that Russia is not going to lose and they will continue meeting their objectives. Brazilian real. It's not that bad. It'll probably get bad, but it's not that bad. You guys were in a shittier situation throughout COVID, so it's not that bad. How's our friend Mexican peso doing? See, Mexican peso is doing okay. Relatively speaking. Man, the ruble. Ruble is just a monster. Russia will continue to adjust their objectives. It's possible. It's possible. But why did historical countries go to war? And what were the outcomes of the war? The concept of spoils of war. When one country defeats another country, back in the day, they used to take slaves. They used to take the land. So there are spoils of war because your people also die for you to win the war. So how do you come back to your country with something to make up for the loss of life that you created to go attack another country or defend another country, right? Or defend your own country. So in the case of the United States, they show up at a country, either start the war there or end the war there, and then they bring in their own companies and then they kind of pillage that land. No different. So in this case, the longer the war in Ukraine goes on and the more Russian soldiers die, the more spoils of the war Russia is going to want in return. So for every day that goes by and there is no peace deal, Russia will keep taking more and more land. I mean, that's how every country would. It's literally how war works. As long as the price of oil is rising, there will not be any inflation relief. If you want to know where inflation's going, you need to look at the price of oil. Somewhere over here. The price of oil will tell you where inflation's going. I still think once the Europeans realize that Ukraine is totally fucked, they're going to send whatever money they have left for safety in the United States. Especially if Putin attacks a country on the euro. So Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, they are a country on the European common currency. These are euro countries. If Russia invades these countries, the euro could actually implode. The euro could implode. And if the euro implodes, that could reverse Bitcoin real quick. I'm not rooting for a Russian invasion of these three countries. But if it happens, that could send the US stock market way up. That could also send the US dollar way up. And that could send Bitcoin way up. Because these countries are not like Ukraine. They will immediately convert those euros into something else, hopefully Bitcoin, for them. Like you can actually see Bitcoin double overnight if these countries are attacked. Bitcoin could also crash, but I think it has a higher probability of doubling overnight. All right, I'm done. People that are saying Russia will not invade the Baltics are the same people that were saying Russia will not invade Ukraine. I am certain of one thing. Russia will not invade Belarus. I'm pretty certain of that. I'm also pretty certain Russia will not invade the United Kingdom. For a completely different reason, that they will not invade Belarus. I'm also pretty certain Russia will not invade India for a different reason than they will not invade Belarus, and for a different reason they would not invade the UK. When someone says they will not invade the Baltics, what reason do you have that they will not do it? Because if your answer is because Russians are scared of NATO, that is a horrendous reason. I actually feel bad for Roger Ver a little bit at this point. Will Russia invade Australia? They wouldn't want to. That's a whole other reason. They will, of course. Russia doesn't have the Navy to invade Australia. Who the hell wants Australia? There's a reason why the UK kept sending all their criminals over there. They wanted them as far away from other human life as possible. Would I consider moving to Thailand or Indonesia? Yeah, I'd consider it, but I didn't like how they handled COVID. I'm a lot more interested in this area down here and the area over here. But my concern is the Marxist just got elected president of Colombia. Not only is he a full-blown, socialist / Marxist, he's also fully in bed with the Biden administration and the you know, the woke culture and movement. So I am very concerned for the future of Colombia. We know Venezuela is all screwed up. Brazil is about to elect their socialist. So Latin America is also falling apart. I mean, maybe El Salvador will salvage things. Maybe Panama. We'll see. Oh, I'm not surprised Australia went more lefty. I mean, Justin Trudeau is getting reelected. Canada loves Trudeau. They're electing him again. They can't wait for mandatory triple masks. They love the guy. They love it. Elected him how many times now? 3? They love him over there. All right, I'm done. Thank you for watching, guys. And I will see you all on the next one. Bye, guys.